what is extremely interesting to me is that 2.5 million podcasts are listed on Apple, but only 450,000 are actually active.
Welcome back to Oh My Pod. I'm Justin.
And I'm Celine.
And today we're going to talk about statistics, podcast statistics for March 2023.
Yep.
So not sure if you know the statistics from the last few years, but if you don't, it's still interesting. We're just going to quickly flip through some of this, and it's going to be mostly Celine because she did all the research, and I'm just going to add a couple little things maybe.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So the statistics have come out, like a stats update on podcasting March 2023, which is super interesting, and I just found it yesterday and I geeked out on it a little bit. And yeah, I think the stats on podcasting are extremely interesting because it just continues to grow. It's like each year it just grows, and it's crazy, and it's so cool because it just shows that what we're preaching is true, pretty much.
Absolutely.
So that's why we love the stats so much. So I found some stuff on the United States and on podcasting as a whole. And so, we'll just go over it, and we'll say probably something about like each thing, maybe, or not maybe each single thing, but the interesting parts we might discuss a little bit. So,
Totally.
The first one is 75% of Americans have listened to a podcast in the last month. So that's
actually ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Like, think about that.
Yeah.
3 out of 4 people, that's the majority of Americans are now listening to podcasts.
Yeah, it's insane. It's honestly insane. So 90 million Americans listen weekly to a podcast. So weekly
that's
listeners.
Like 1 in 4, I think.
Sorry?
I think that's like 1 in 4 people in the US, if I'm correct.
I'm not sure. But like the fun
Yeah.
thing that I also read, and that I don't think that I made a note on it, but it's like most people that listen weekly actually listen to 8 different episodes each week.
Yeah.
That means they
that'd be me.
Yeah, that's crazy though, isn't it? Like they listen to 8 different podcasts each week.
Becomes a part of their life, right? So they it's just something that they do.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. I think it's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So between 2014 and today, spoken word audio listeners age 14 to 34 have increased by 214%. Like that just blows my mind. It's crazy.
I think 2014 was sort of the start of the podcasting boom, if I'm correct. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's sort of when it started kind of picking up. So that's huge. Obviously, it's just been growing ever since.
Yeah, well, I think it depends on the country, because I feel like actually the United States have been listening for the longest to podcasts, whereas this year is the first time that I have seen Italy coming up in the statistics even, because I think Italy was I'm Italian, right? So like I think Italy was just extremely late on that whole thing, like to hop on it. But now there are some things about Italy in the stats which I think is extremely interesting. So some countries
That's cool.
are just late, a bit late.
Yeah.
Like half of the US population listens every day.
Yeah, listen to spoken word every single day. Yeah.
That is crazy. What I think is crazy interesting is that 66% of podcast listeners have a bachelor's degree or higher. Like,
that's cool.
That means that it's just a highly educated audience that you get from podcasting, because it is mostly people that want to learn something new. Like, that's like the main reason why people listen. And so, highly educated people. Like, great. That's very interesting for anybody that sells ads or wants to do ads, sell their products on podcasts and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's a good thing to know.
Yeah. So then a few things about Canada. 9 million Canadians over 19 listen to podcasts every month.
Cool.
That's quite good. And nearly 38% of adult Canadians have listened to a podcast in the last year. Yeah.
Wow. So why is it's so much less in Canada? That's very weird.
But also, Canada doesn't have a lot of people.
I know, but it's a percentage, so it's still...
yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, 9 million. Like, the United States is
that's
densely populated, whereas Canada literally has no people.
Yeah, there's like 40 million.
No offense, but it's like a huge country and has like no people.
Yeah.
Compared to the size, obviously.
Yeah.
So 28% of Canadian listeners have an annual income of $100,000 or more.
So again, kind of on the highly educated, like upper middle class side of things. Yes. That's also really good to know if you're thinking about running ads on podcasts. I wish I had the stats for how many people convert on podcasts. It's ridiculously high how many people actually follow the call to actions that the host gives.
I have a few things on that after, I think. So
okay.
So Canada makes 5% of the total podcast listeners worldwide, whereas the US makes 47.9%.
Almost 50% of podcast listeners worldwide in the US. So that's the podcast boom central. Very, very interesting. I wonder if that has something to do with... There are a few other countries that do extremely well, though. Like, there's like Sweden and Brazil, I think, that are like highly, like, they're all podcast listeners. It's really interesting. Okay. Whereas worldwide, apparently there are currently 420 million listeners. Yep, makes sense.
Which is a crazy amount of time of people. So now
here we go into the ad revenue.
Yeah, about ads. Yeah, because I think that's crazy interesting as well. So in 2023, it is estimated that the ad revenue for podcasting is going to exceed $2 billion. But the crazy part is that it is estimated that it reaches $4 billion by 2024, which means it's going to double
in a year. Yeah.
Again. It already doubled in the last few years, like a couple of times, and it's doubling again. That just shows how much it is still growing.
It's skyrocketing right now.
It is not plateauing whatsoever. No.
Yeah.
It's just insane. And over 70% of podcast listeners have purchased from podcast ads.
I am one of those. Even though I rarely purchase anything that gets advertised to me, I have purchased books from podcasts. I've purchased supplements. I've purchased lots of stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Same. 100%. Like books for sure. Like literally the book that changed our lives we found on a podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Like we, was it Michaela Peterson?
I think so.
Yeah, I think Michaela Peterson interviewed Natasha Campbell, which is the founder of the GAPS diet. And we are on the GAPS diet. And that's crazy. Like we both read that book. We both bought that book because of that podcast.
Yeah.
And that's just crazy. Changed our lives.
Absolutely.
A survey has been conducted and 70% are stated that they are more aware of brands or products that have been mentioned in podcasts. Yeah, agree 100%, like the last one, right?
Yeah, same idea. Yep.
Yeah. So really interesting, popular show. Still number one, Joe Rogan.
Yeah, popular shows.
Nothing changed, really. I thought what was really interesting is that Ben Shapiro's podcast is number 6.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Even though he's very...
controversial, right?
Very controversial, yeah.
Exactly. So that he made number 6, I think that's impressive. So how people find podcasts. So that's really interesting as well. So actually 30%, which is the highest, number one reason why people find a podcast is actually through just searching the internet.
Yeah. Totally.
Right? That's
just Googling
so cool.
topics and finding information.
And that confirms why SEO is so important.
Yeah.
Because people are literally internet searching for podcasts. Yeah. So that just another reason to...
You need to have the words on Google. Google just picks up the words. Yeah.
Exactly. Transcriptions and recording video, because obviously uploading to YouTube, all of that will improve your SEO. So cool. So cool. And then actually the next 20% actually find new podcasts because family or friends have recommended, which, yes, I understand that. 100% makes sense. And 17% through social media, which is still very high. Yeah, that's like we said, that's why the clips are so important, honestly. So Apple Podcasts is actually still the most popular platform with 38.7% of listeners that come from there, which is impressive. I was thinking, last year, I think. Like they came pretty close, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna get dethroned.
Yeah.
But no, Spotify has 28%.
Yeah.
So that is quite significant.
Mm-hmm.
Still quite significantly higher for Apple Podcasts. What is extremely interesting to me is that...
This is very interesting.
Yeah. 2.5 million podcasts are listed on Apple, but only 450,000 are actually active.
So that's 1 out of 5.
So there are a lot of fish in the sea, but yeah, some of them are...
Well, that's just like what Jacob
was
Bozarth,
saying
our guest, that most is it 50% of podcasts don't make it past the 3rd episode or something like that?
Yeah, I don't really remember, but he said something like that. It's just 2 episodes back.
Stat.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. 80% of listeners finish an episode they start.
Oh my God, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's super cool. No, I just saw that. That's 80% of listeners finish an episode they start, which is
huge.
Really ridiculous because some of the episodes are like 2 hours long. I definitely do. I'll finish every single episode.
I do as well, actually. But if you think about it, like think about other mediums, like how often do you start a video on YouTube and you don't finish it?
Often, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like compared, like I would say that me personally, I totally understand why this is like so high, like 80%.
Yeah.
Because I do finish podcasts. Whenever I start, I like pretty much always finish.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one is 75% of people listen to educate themselves. So very cool.
So I hope you liked this episode. I think this is extremely interesting and I love listening to stats like that. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I thought since they just came out March 2023, I thought this was really relevant.
Yep. And what are we going to be talking about on the next episode next week?
We're going to talk about why every coach should have a podcast.
Every coach. So business coach, fitness coach, nutrition coach, health coach.
Yes.
Any coach.
Correct.
Any coach or even just educator more broadly, someone who has a powerful message that they want to share with the world.
Yeah, correct.
So we'll talk about that next week. As always, you can go to the show notes and download your 9-step guide to launching your own podcast. Super easy, super simple, tons of good info in there. And yeah, thank you, Celine, for running this episode. Pretty much all by yourself.
Well, kinda.
Pretty much. And yeah, okay, so we'll see you next week.